And one of the things that we've been addressing, again, getting back to the workforce, is not where we are and who we are, but also the people at work. So one of the key issues that we've been involved in is workforce development, as I mentioned before. And one of the ways in which we wanted to deal with is wages. Now, we know that talk about wages and wage adjustments and increases is tough in these tough times. But our folks are starting off in our sector at such low proportions that we've got to figure out a fair way to do that. And we're primarily looking at it in a number of different ways. So if you look at this chart here, what the Donahue Institute were able to do is just look at full-time equivalent median wages and salaries. So in general, all employees in our sector, and they compared it with healthcare and then all other sectors. And we put healthcare in there because for a lot of our positions, we compete with healthcare for some of the same people. We're already starting out in terms of employee base at a $9,000 difference, right? Close to $9,000. We've already, so if a person has a choice, and when you're talking that small, we're not talking about $9,000 on a $200,000 salary as compared to a $191,000 salary. We're talking about something that's less than 12 bucks an hour at $23.83. That's a big difference in there. And then you start looking at the differences with direct service folks that are in there. And then you're starting seeing something closer to 14 and 15,000 of medium salaries that are there. We're going to have a tough time competing. So if you believe what the Bureau of Labor Statistics is saying about the need in Massachusetts, if you look at it just on wage and salaries, we're not competitive. We're not going to be able to make it. How are we ever going to be able to fill that gap and fill that need? So understandably, one of the things that the Providers Council is very much interested in is how do we build that up? How do we close that disparity so that we can compete? We know that no one comes in this field assuming that they're going to be rich, right? Direct service, they do it primarily because they have a commitment to help people. They know they got the skills. They understand what it's about. But they also want to have a decent wage and a decent way of living so they can live in this society. So we use these kind of stats and numbers just to show here's the world that we live in right now. Now some, it's medium, some may be under, some may be over. But the bottom line is not very good for our sector, and that's why we're committed to working on that. And part of our strategies are twofold. One, to try to raise and put more money in direct care workers' salaries. And second, how do we reduce expenses like health care for those direct care workers as well, and providing them with opportunities because they are the foundation of our business and our ability to do that. Now the next slide, we'll talk about our request. Now, the legislation administration since 97 to 09 has understood this issue. This is not one of those things where, geez, they just don't get it. They get it. You know, we've got friends in the legislature, understand these stats, they talk with people like you, they may even have family or friends that work in the sector, so they know there's a big disparity here. How do we work this out? How do we figure this out? And they have, in good times, have been able to put $212 million into the budgets that went right into the pockets of those who make under $40,000. That's the way it works. It does not go to any, CEO salaries. That money goes straight to the people that we think needs it. But the last reserve was paid in $23 million. So now you've got 3, potentially 4 years with folks who got nothing in terms of an increase. That's a concern. We understand recession. We understand that notion, but we also understand shared sacrifice. And folks have really sacrificed quite a bit in trying to make this going. And maybe it would be okay to have no increase if nothing else rose in your life. But I don't know if many of you have been by the gas station in the past couple of months or so. That's steadily going up. Putting heat and oil into your tank, steadily going up. Food prices going up. So we're living in a real market economy where prices we pay are inflated, but yet our ability to revenue is not there. So we've made, and we know that 28 might be too ambitious. We get it. We only asked for 28 because that's what the last one was out there. And someone will say, geez, it's too much, Michael. No, it's a lot of money. We know it's a lot of money. We get it. But when you take that 28 million and you spread it over the 30,000 people that are affected, that are in that low wage, we're really talking something around 45 cents an hour, 18 bucks a week, probably giving them a nice pizza a week, right? It really doesn't go out that far. But we get that. We get the big number part, but we really think it's important that people understand what we're talking about when we try to advance the salary reserve and why it's important. And remember, we know there's a great need there. We want to be able to recruit and retain people. One of the worst things that happens in client services, and those of you who know this, who've been in this business know this, is that how hard it is for our people we care for when there's sort of that turnstile of workers in your lives, right? I used to work in direct care services, and I remember one of the clients had shared with me how they felt that something was wrong with them, that they're always getting a new, every few weeks or a month, they get a new social worker. It's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why do they keep giving me new social workers? Well, they didn't understand the concept of turnover. We understand what that means. That means that somebody says, look, you know what? I can get a better deal going down to the local Stop and Shop as an employee and helping to pay my bill and got a better shot of insurance than I can working in your field. I love your field, but I can't make it. So that's why we spend time on that, time on working on that. And we get the arguments against it. We understand that. We try not to look like crazy knuckleheads when we ask for these things. But when you look at the numbers, we're compelled to say, can you help? Where's the help? Can we get some help here? Just tell us what's the right number. If it ain't 28, is it 25? I don't know. What can we do to get some help?